there everyone, I'm Don, Professor Goway, and welcome to the GowayPro Travel Tale Podcast. Travel far and travel often. Discovering Kiwi culture. Okay, so...
You've got something down there about the bird of the century.
Oh, I just wanted to remember how to say putaki-taki in case it came up. Putaki-taki. I did a bit of research today. You know what? It's not a Kiwi bird. It's not an indigenous. You can get it it's in Australia, in Asia, in Africa. No. Well, I might have worked that angle in. Hi there, everyone. I'm Don, Professor Goway, and welcome to the GowayPro Travel Tales Podcast. Hear from expert guests, including conservationists, explorers, tourism professionals, and everyday globetrotters to discover fascinating stories in the world of travel and be inspired to travel far and to travel often. Listen and subscribe to the GowayPro Travel Tales on your podcast app of choice, and check out episodes on the GowayPro YouTube channel for video podcasts, plus other exciting content on the world of travel. Inspire, motivate, educate. Now, today we have with us here in our office in Toronto. They've just all flown in from Vancouver. Where were you before Vancouver?
LA.
Los Angeles.
So you've done New Zealand, LA, Vancouver, Toronto, and I heard you mention Boston and a possible baseball game or something.
Yeah.
Chicago.
Boston Red Sox.
Oh, Red Sox, okay.
Yeah.
So Boston after here, New York is another one?
Chicago next, and then Boston after Chicago.
And
then we are pretty much home after
okay.
that. Yeah.
So the we that Di is referring to is, I'm going to have to read this so I make sure I get it all correct, as in titles. We have from Rotorua, Lou Baddiley.
Kia ora.
To my left, for those watching. From Wellington, Reid, who's opposite me.
Kia ora.
We have from Christchurch, Krissy Griggs.
Kia ora.
Opposite also. And to my far left, we have Linda McIntosh representing Queenstown. So actually, when I say from Rotorua, Wellington, Christchurch, Queenstown, are you actually from there, or that's where you're representing?
We all live in the place, Don.
You all live in the places you're representing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there you go. So we have the ladies doing a whirlwind tour through North America. Last year, Lou was here with us with three other representatives from other parts of New Zealand at the time. And I looked up today before the girls arrived and tried to work out what the collective noun was for a group of Kiwis, the birds, not the people. And it's a tribe, or the fruit, yes. And it's a tribe. So we have a tribe of Kiwis with us here today.
Appropriate.
And a Kiwi, for those who may or may not know, is affectionate slang, I guess, for someone from New Zealand. So if you meet a Kiwi or New Zealand, you can call them Kiwis. They're fine with that. And they're all here today to talk to us about their respective areas. And more importantly, to discover the Kiwi culture. Now, a lot of people might immediately associate Kiwi culture, rightly so, with the Maori culture and the haka. It's one of the more famous things, the indigenous population. But we're not here really today to focus on that. It's more just the general lifestyle or the Kiwi culture. So before we get going, so I'll go left to right in a loop. Just a short introduction of each of you. So Lou first from Rotorua, or representing Rotorua.
Kia ora. So yes, I live in the place. In fact, it's quite funny as we all talk. A lot of us have lived in each other's places, but we've gone back to where we now call home.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm the international manager. I look after trade for Western markets.
Okay.
And like the others around the table, the destination expert for the place.
Okay. Linda?
Beautiful. Yeah, kia ora. Lovely to be here. Thanks, Don. I'm born and bred in Auckland in the North Island, but migrated south to Queenstown. I went for one season, short time, not a long time, and 24 years later, I still find myself in that beautiful part of the world that I love to call home to girls, and just fabulous lifestyle. And I'm really blessed to be able to promote our home in Queenstown and share that as a really mature tourism economy, and look after Western markets too for Queenstown and Lake Wanaka tourism. So that's quite new for me.
Can you clarify what Western markets means?
Anything North America, UK, Europe,
North America,
Australia.
UK and Europe, and
Yes.
and Oz as
And
well.
Australia
Okay.
as well.
Australia.
The
Krissy?
West Island.
Kia ora, ko Krissy toko ingoa, ko Otatahi Aho. My name is Krissy and I'm from Christchurch. I was born and bred in Christchurch, but I did go overseas for quite a few years. Decided to come back to New Zealand and it's such a beautiful place that I came home. I'm the visitor markets manager for Otatahi, Christchurch, so I look after all markets. There you go.
Nice one. Kia ora team. My name's Reid. I am the Tourism Trade Manager with Wellington NZ. I was actually born and bred down in central Otago, close to Queenstown. I've always been a country girl, but now I live in the city. And look, Wellington, I've only lived there for 3 years to be fair, so I'm actually still kind of new, you could say, to there. But yeah, so it's actually great. I'm getting to know Wellington as well as a local, as a visitor, as all of those things. So seeing it from fresh eyes all the time. So it's awesome. It's awesome to be here.
So those listening and watching as well, you probably hear my accent. So just for clarity's sake here, because the girls were just saying they just caught on their flight from Vancouver to Toronto, they were, I'm going to use the word blessed, to see out of their right window or left window, as the case may be, left window probably.
Left.
Yeah.
They saw the Northern Lights, and I just saw a photo of it, and it was a stunning display of it as well. But the people on board the plane, the cabin crew or something, referred to the girls as Australians, which they're not, obviously. They're from New Zealand. And you should be able to hear a difference in the accent, and that'd be one of the biggest, or more noticeable differences between Australia and New Zealand when you speak to people is the accent. It is quite different if you listen closely enough. One thing that is similar but still different, this is a hard thing talking about Australia and New Zealand, there's a lot of similarities, but they're both different countries, is the lifestyle. Australia is known for the beaches and the sun and a laid-back lifestyle, but that's very much the same thing for New Zealand as well. So today we're going to delve a little bit deeper into, as I say, the lifestyle of a New Zealander. So I'm not going to nominate. Someone can just pipe up and give us a general overview of why you think New Zealand is the laid-back country that its reputation is growing to be.
I think, first off, we work to live, not the other way around.
Yes.
So I think the work-life balance, for the most part, and you're a great example of that, you on your Linda on her skis every but second, and me on my mountain bike every other second. So I think first and foremost, we live in a really beautiful country where the outdoors is accessible year round. And so I think it's just ingrained in us to maximise the use of our kind of pretty environment and to minimise the time at work to accommodate that.
I agree. I think Kiwis are explorers. We get told to explore our backyard all the time, and we explore the world too. So as you heard, I came home after exploring, and I was lucky enough as a child to be able to explore our country as well. And we're known for our outdoors. You say the beaches for Australia. Ours is definitely our mountains and our waters, and our living is on our back doorstep. So it's very
so accessible. You're never more than an hour and a half from the beach in New Zealand, or something like that.
You couldn't be with
2
the
hours?
coastline.
Need to fact check that, but it's not far, Don.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. Like, if you look at a map, New Zealand's obviously smaller than Australia. Australia has a reputation of sun and beach, rightly so, but a lot of people don't take that for New Zealand, which it does have. But geographically, you are situated a bit further, like south. So if you run a straight line across from Sydney, where would you hit in New Zealand?
I don't think you would hit anything.
You would,
It's Auckland, just about Auckland.
Just about Auckland?
Yeah.
Oh, we've got a little globe here that
Guy's
Lou's
got the
pointing at as well.
globe.
So I think if you go Melbourne,
there you go,
when
yeah.
you go over, you'll hit Auckland. I think it's
and
probably more or
Tasmania,
less
Mauritius.
Okay, so there you go. So heading across Melbourne. So that also induces New Zealand to having great winter activities, skiing, which
Absolutely.
I
I
refer to Linda from
partake.
Queenstown, which would be the heart of the ski world for New Zealand, and it's a very, very popular ski destination for Aussies as well. So, Lynn, do you want to expound on Queenstown? Because to Lou's point of working to live, Queenstown, I guess, is the epitome of that, both summer and winter opportunities. So you want to give us some
inherently in our DNA is just that nature of work hard, play hard. Our alpine backdrop being in the heart of the Southern Alps really is just that magnetism that draws you outdoors. I think, and no matter what kind of training I do, even for me, like I'll still walk into a new hotel and I'll look out the window to see where I am and all of the grandeur that surrounds. But yeah, like I say, I moved to Queenstown to do one season, met my husband up there at Coronet Peak Ski Field, and I never looked back. And now with 2 kids there, we go up skiing both days of every weekend from the start of the season to the end of it. And it just feels so wholesome, you know, and you're there with people alongside. It's a real community sport. So I love that, being in the lift line waiting to go up line and, you know, waving out to people or having a chat while you're waiting for a chair. And that's just winter for us. That's just stock standard way of life. But this time of year at the moment with spring, you know, we're starting to come into longer daylight hours. So I love actually going up, and you can still be skiing in the morning, but by the afternoon, you know, your legs are tired, you come downhill, and but you still kind of feel like you just want to be outdoors. So that might just still be taking the dog for a walk or getting out on your bike and in the garden, or, you know, and in summer, you know, we're out on the lake as many chances as we can get, both Queenstown, Wanaka side, just because it's so accessible. It's so there on your doorstep. It's the high value commodity of why we've chosen to live in the place, and we love sharing that with anyone who then comes to visit.
So down south in Queenstown, obviously in wintertime, and again it's reversed for our North Americans, it's coming into down under being New Zealand and Australia's summer now. So excluding the winter activities, which would be pretty much exclusive to the Queenstown area, for your other regions, the activity opportunities would be as equal, excluding the skiing, or Krissy's sort of nodding her head.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this because I feel it's a proposition not just for the Canterbury Christchurch region, but for New Zealand as a whole as well. But we're really diving into this as our stargazing opportunities that we've got in our region. We have got some of the clearest skies in the world, and it's like literally the sanctuaries we've now got, though, through dark sky. We've got sanctuaries and reserves throughout New Zealand. In the South Island, I know, for example, Mackenzie region is a sanctuary, and now Kaikoura have just been named a dark sky sanctuary as well. So you throw a dark blanket on the sky and you shove some glitter up there, and it's literally, the world opens up. It's pretty spectacular of what you can see in our area just by being, you know, not supposed to say this, but in Hagley Park apparently it's a great dark sky opportunity. But Akaroa, there's opportunities just outside. You know, you don't have to go far to have the world open up to you there.
Now that's South Island you're referring to, or is that pretty much all of New Zealand?
I think you can do it in the whole of New Zealand. I'll pass it over to these guys for that, but I know as a pro from the South Island, it's definitely the proposition for us for the South.
And the outdoor activities in the North Island, of course, Rotorua is one of the probably better known destinations within New Zealand. But the North Island in general for activities, because again, last time you were here, Lou, with I can't remember the ladies' names you were here with, but you were discussing that from Rotorua and the surrounds within that area.
Jam-packed with outdoor.
Yeah, can you just do a quick recap of that
sure.
geographical setup?
So particularly Rotorua in particular, we're a lake district. It's a real shame somewhere else called it the Lake District. But anywho, we've got 18 lakes on our doorstep. They're all freshwater lakes. You are never far from the beach in our part of the world. So we're 1 hour literally from some of the best beaches in New Zealand. Back to Rotorua, we have incredible forests. I just learnt on, I didn't know this last year, the second largest recreational forest in the world. Who booked that?
Where?
In Rotorua.
Really?
Yeah, kia ora, you're welcome. Okay. So anyway, anything you can think of to do in the forest, hop on. And this is absolutely for anyone's listening to this is for their clients. You can go, you call it hiking, we call it just going for a walk, right? We're quite casual about that. Go for a walk, get your trainers on. You can go a little bit more off-piste and do some serious hiking. Riding a bike, we've got 300 kilometres of mountain bike trails in Rotorua. What's that, 186 miles or something like that? Horse riding, zip lining, swimming, and of course you've got all the geothermal activities. So it's not unheard of for our visitors to head out on one of the lakes and actually go swimming in beautiful, warm geothermal water in the lake. And I'm from there, and I even think that sounds slightly crazy. Yeah.
And Wellington?
Yeah, look, Wellington, I mean, we're sort of that urban, funky, cosmopolitan city. You know, we are very much that, that little creative, cultural capital for us. Outdoor activities, we do have the Remataka Cycle Trail on our back doorstep. So cycle tourism is really massive in New Zealand. It's growing all over the country, and it can be basically as gentle or as advanced as you want it to be.
So if someone wanted to cycle anywhere in New Zealand, but obviously we're talking Wellington here, they're obviously not going to drag their bikes from here over, but like there are good bikes to be
bike hire
rented,
places
hired,
all over the
okay.
place. Yep, really, really easily accessible transfers and everything from wherever you're staying. So, and we've got beautiful viaducts, tunnels, streams, rivers that you can go over through bushland. So it's beautiful. So that's sort of the beauty of Wellington. It's really close. You can get out of that city within 10 minutes. You're out in the bushland kind of thing. Coastal walk. So we're obviously a coastal city, and so there's a heap of walking trails and getting up the Kapiti coast along the beaches, or you flip over the hill over the Remataka Ranges and you're in wine country. So probably a lot more relaxed down the Wellington way for adventure stuff. Like our food and wine is probably more.
Food and wine, okay. So we're obviously here talking to our North American travel partners about, pushing, selling people to go to New Zealand. But do the local Kiwis partake in everything we've discussed as well? Or is it like, because there are certain parts of the world, like I'll use my area of expertise down in Machu Picchu. Locals visit, but predominantly it's foreigners coming in to visit the big sites, Machu Picchu, Lake Titicaca, etc. But to me, New Zealand sounds like everything we're discussing today is as much open to the international traveller as it's open to the locals visiting. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think COVID probably opened us up to being more aware of how much domestic travel we actually do. And I have to double check this, but something like 75% of domestic travel domestically, and it's just incredible to see that we're great ambassadors for our backyard. And I think that does give credit to the experiences and what we can do. From Christchurch, you can easily travel to Queenstown or up to Hamner Springs, or you go to Wellington for an afternoon. Our country is not big, so to get around it's so easy to be able to go there for a long weekend or a week in the school holidays.
So yes, one of the most well-known destinations in the country. We're actually 60% domestic and 40% international.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that sort of leads to my next question, because I'm sure you've heard the news, but I'll just bring it up anyway. The news that's been hitting the North American cycles recently in tourism is a lot of places in Europe are sort of pushing back against tourism because it's over-touristed. Now, as you said, Krissy, it's not a big country, New Zealand, but one thing I've always found and seen by talking to people like yourselves and Lou and just being involved in the tourism industry, small country, lots of people go there, but at the same time it seems to be spacious, back to my question of domestic tourism and international tourism. You can go to, not every place, but a lot of places, particularly down south, and feel like you're the only one down there. Is that a fair statement for New Zealand? For the most part.
I'll jump in again for first, if that's right, girls. I think there's up to 5.5 million people now in New Zealand and something like 25 million cattle or sheep. So you're going to see more animals than you'll see people. I think, Linda, you mentioned the other day you can walk down your tracks without anybody there all day. We can go to our beach in the morning and walk our dog and be a couple of dogs on the beach, and that's literally it. We're very lucky, and we don't want to push anybody away. We're welcoming with open arms.
Yeah, so I think that's a key thing, particularly this day and age where the big famous sites are big and famous for a reason. But I from experience, I was in Thailand earlier this year, I think, and I was a bit disappointed, to be honest, simply because the areas we went to were completely southern Thailand. And it's not, I don't want to put anyone off going to Thailand as well, so I don't want to shoot myself in the foot here. But I think that's one of the big attractions of New Zealand is you can go there and go to famous sites and feel as if you're the only one there, or one of very few at a minimum. Yeah.
And our cities aren't big, us coming over here, for example, we're blown away by just the size, by the queues outside cafes and restaurants and things. We don't get that at home.
I've never seen a queue for a cafe.
Really?
Like round the corner queue.
Apart from Fergo.
Apart from Fergo. Okay. True
But
that.
in general,
It's an institution.
it's crazy. I talk about Wellington as a city, and it's only 2 kilometres from one end of our downtown to the other. So it's not big at all. It takes you 30 minutes to walk from one end to the other. So it's just not the scale, and that's why we don't have those mass numbers, even in sort of peak tourism season. There's certainly areas of New Zealand that are small, and probably don't manage, don't handle those numbers as well as others. But overall, I don't think you'd ever feel overwhelmed and part of a huge crowd in New Zealand.
We have a saying in New Zealand about manakitanga, and that talks to us about welcoming. And while you're there, you arrive as strangers and leave as friends. And we really do like to welcome and enjoy and get to know you. So Lou mentioned the other day, take your guard down and really enjoy being part of our whānau or our family, because it is part of being in New Zealand that you're going to get to know the locals.
You're going to be at the grocery store, right? and they're going to want to chat about what your holiday is, probably introduce you to their uncle down south. And so, that's probably a key piece of advice for travel agents sending your visitors down there, is let your guard down a little bit. Still keep your bag zipped up, but absolutely get ready to chat, because
Guard
the
down, bag
Kiwis
zipped
are...
up.
Well, I think we're fascinated by people that travel, and it's not that far, let's be honest, but travel and come and see our part of the world, and we want to hear about them.
Like, I know when I was growing up in Australia, this is pre-'80s, before Australia hit the map with, In Excess and Crocodile Dundee and all that stuff, and all sort of rolled it, like all the America's Cup. It was a perfect storm of Australia hitting the headlines, and the tourism board doing an exceptional job of letting the world know we were there. Prior to that, you felt like if you heard Australia mentioned in a movie, they know about us. They know about us. To me, from afar, it seems like Australia's still up there, but it's had its sort of moment in the sun. And then New Zealand quietly snuck in behind it and took over that southern hemisphere mantle. Do you, travelling as much as you do, representing as you do, right? You'll have a different view on it compared to the average Kiwi walking the streets in Wellington or Christchurch. Does the average person sort of feel like they're like, when they see an international tourist, like is it a novelty still, or is it because you have such a good reputation now that it's par for the course, so to speak?
Oh, I'm going to go somewhere in the middle. It's par for the course, but it's kind of like, hey, so where did you come from? And where are you going after this? And what made you come here? You're going to get a million questions.
Now, again, is that because...
It may be a little bit of a novelty, actually.
Yeah, like I'm saying, like, is that because... Or it could be both. Is that because it's a bit of a novelty still, because the Kiwi psyche is, we are a small country, Australia did get all the sort of publicity.
You do.
Now, we sort of, okay... Like, we're sort of, what I said before, pre-'80s for us. Oh, you heard about us. And or is it, and I think it's probably going to be yes to both of these, it's just the Kiwi nature is welcoming and curious.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we talk about obviously how small New Zealand is, but like I think about where I grew up, little rural farm town. If, North Americans or someone with a really strong, for example, French accent or something, turned up down in the little small towns of New Zealand, they probably would be going, oh, you're not from around here, where are you from, kind of thing. It would be an absolute novelty if you're off that tourist track. But otherwise, I think people are just curious. We're just curious, welcoming little humans down in New Zealand. So.
Actually, and because we're so widely travelled, like we might have been where they come from. I think Kiwis in general are really well-travelled people. Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, from a cultural point of view, again, I don't think it's changed in Australia, but when I was growing up, not everyone, but most people would finish high school or university, and then was a sort of rite of passage to go to Europe for a year, 6 months work, 6 months travel, and or travel longer, because Australians had reputations, and I should say Australians and Kiwis had reputations of, when you did travel, because we were so far away from everything, when you went, you'd do as much as you could in one big hit, then you'd come back and hit your career, whatever it may be. Are Kiwis, on the flip side, out of the country, still that driven to get out of New Zealand to see the world?
Mm-hmm. There's 1 million of us in London alone. That's why there's only 5 million back home.
I was going to say, I want to go back there. So there's about 5 point something in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what... I think Toronto's around about 3 million people.
No, we Googled it at 6.5 wider metropolitan. Was that what I Googled?
Yeah, and again, we're, as you know, being here, it's a spread. So there are more people in Toronto than there are in New Zealand. But you're saying there's 1 million in London. There's probably 2 million Aussies as well. They all
in the same place.
Yeah, exactly. All in all's court.
To answer your question, it is absolutely a rite of passage, and we have a phrase for it. It's called the OE, and I think you call that too, and that stands for overseas experience.
Right.
And fundamentally, we are such a young country, one of the youngest countries in the world. And all of us, you might meet someone that's a 4th generation New Zealander. That's kind of unusual. And so because we all kind of know that we come from another place, so both of my parents are English, but I'm 100% a Kiwi as far as I'm concerned. But I know that I come from the UK. So that's not uncommon. Linda has a strong link to Croatia.
I was going to ask. So
Krissy, UK as well. Yeah.
UK?
UK, yeah.
I'm actually Scotland and Australia. I have back Aboriginal heritage, to be fair. Yeah, on my mother's side. So.
That's classic. That's typical. And so we kind of have to go and find out where we came from to understand where we are now.
So what is the bulk of the cultural heritage? So obviously there's the Maori, which is the First Nations, or a terminology for North America's First Nations people, indigenous population. But for the Caucasian, the European, is it predominantly Europe?
European would be major.
British would be number one.
British number one would be the heritage.
European.
Okay, yeah.
Do you have any South Africans in New Zealand?
Yes,
Yeah.
there's quite a few.
Like there's a fair few.
Yeah.
There's a fair few.
Yeah, so a lot of South Africans in New Zealand, but actually quite large growing populations of India and China, particularly around the Auckland region. Yeah,
Okay.
we have a strong Indian community in Rotorua.
Did you guys go through an influx? So that's probably not the right word. It often has derogatory inferences, but an increase of migration from Asia at any time. Like Australia went through a peak of Vietnamese and stuff in the 70s, 80s. Has it pretty much been, just as you mentioned, Lou, there, the Indians and Chinese of late?
Yeah, it's probably since around the 2000s,
Okay,
but in particular, yeah.
right.
We have a lot of international students in New
Oh, you
Zealand.
do?
So Auckland, Wellington, especially a lot of Chinese students in Christchurch. Yeah.
What's that? Is that because it's cheaper
think it's also
education for them, or
cheaper education and was deemed a lot safer as well. I think that they were coming here for that
safer
lifestyle.
than where though? You know,
Probably
just anywhere for that matter. But
A lot of China and Korea that we get in Christchurch. So
Yeah,
definitely.
I think again probably just that New Zealand lifestyle. You
Yeah.
know, that sort of more relaxed. That it's a lot cheaper. Used to be a lot cheaper to live.
learning English.
nothing's cheap here. Nothing's
Not
cheaper
anymore.
anymore. Yeah.
But yeah, you know, we've got some pretty world class universities in New Zealand that are very well known for a lot of their degrees. So yeah, the international students are huge in our main centres.
We have a condo here in Toronto, and it's down by TMU, Toronto Municipal University, was Ryerson, and we rent that out to students, and a lot of students come to Canada because it's deemed as one of the safer choices. And you mentioned some of the Chinese and Indian or otherwise international students, whoever they may be, come to New Zealand for that as well. So overall, it goes without saying, I guess, it's a safe country, New Zealand. Like safer than the norm. Like again,
I
every
still
country
think
has
you've got to have your
different-
wits about you no matter where you are. But we travel quite a lot. And I do think in certain places, I mean, I used to live in the country and you could leave, you know, your door unlocked and your car keys in your car and walk back and it'd still be fine. In the cities, you wouldn't do that. So it's just the similarities. But in New Zealand, I do feel safe. But you know how to adapt to your own country or the country that you're travelling to, right? So I think, you know, as Lou said, you know, zip your bag, but still go out and have a good yarn to us because, it's all there.
Because one of the most popular options for people, at least with Goway, travelling to New Zealand is self-drives. And yeah, a self-drive, and again, when I say self-drive, I'm talking camper vans or RVs. So you're driving around the areas we're discussing here. Any type of travel, when you do that, and that's what I used to do as a living, you have to feel comfortable in the country to be sort of just stopping wherever, maybe even camping off the side of the road. You have to feel comfortable that the surroundings are safe. So that being one of the most popular options for New Zealand, by extension, leads to the fact that it is a very safe and, more importantly, I guess, equally important, welcoming country. So obviously English, albeit with a different funny accent, is the main language down there. So getting around is very, very easy. And it's a question I asked about anyone representing their respective country. If someone has an issue on a self-drive, say, in the middle of nowhere or a country town, knocking on someone's door, you're going to find a welcoming, generally response.
Yes,
Yeah, as
I would say so.
Kiwis are like that.
Yeah, and generally if you're broken down, there's people do tend to stop. I've broken down back in my youth a couple of times and been quite happy that someone's actually stopped to help me fix a tyre or check, you know, or give me a, you know, whatever you need. Like we do try and assist where we can. But just keep safe, and I think New Zealand is a safe place to be.
Okay. Now, hearing Krissy speak, to me, you have a heavier accent than Di and Lou.
Interesting.
And Linda. Like your accent seems to me at least, a bit heavier. Would that be because of where you're from, or is it just it is just what it is. Like, because
That's what it is, I think. Yeah. I lived overseas for many years, but and actually, funny you say that because I always said I had a very strong accent when I was overseas in London. But coming home, I feel like in Christchurch I sound pretty similar to everyone else. Maybe I stand out here.
maybe you hear Krissy talk all the time, so probably it's just her voice versus her accent.
Yeah.
But just as I'm speaking to you, like I can hear all your accents without a doubt, but yours just seems a bit heavier than your compatriots here.
There's definitely different accents even throughout the country, I think.
Further south.
The further south you go, you sort of roll your R's.
Further south.
I do that a little bit, even though I've been out for a while, I still do that. And,
so in the world of New Zealand, is going south generalised as going more rural?
Yes.
Yes. So your yes is very heavy. Yes.
I heard that.
Yeah, I did.
You heard that?
Now that you bring it up.
So again, the reason I bring that up is because there are two different accents, Australian, and again, there are different accents within Australia. There's a city accent, there's definitely a rural accent, as there is in New Zealand, of course. But when we were setting today's podcast up, I was emailing Lou, and she responded in her email, "Thank you, Uncle." And I was, okay, Uncle. And I assumed it was some slang. Because we're not related. And I did confirm with Lou when she got here that it is an affectionate term used in New Zealand. So just on that note, Australia's known and famous for its slang and, another shrimp on the barbie. But let's hear what are some of the more common bits of slang that a traveller may hear or should be aware of to understand. So one is uncle, which is what, Lou?
Just a term of endearment. So it's not our first date, right?
Right. Okay.
So, and it's a term of respect and a term of endearment. Like we'd say quite a good egg in New Zealand.
That's
or
an
egg.
Aussie expression.
Yeah,
Egg.
so good egg.
Egg.
So you'll automatically be uncle. But it's quite common for us to call each other bro, even though we're all girls.
Yeah, that's quite I've noticed that's a very often used expression in New Zealand, bro.
Yes, bro.
More so in the north than the south, I reckon, too. We probably don't use it in the south as much as the north, so that would probably be where it is. And I think going back to the uncle, when we were children, every parent, every friend of our mothers and fathers were aunties and uncles.
And you always listen to the aunties. That's an unwritten rule.
Yes, and that's interesting because
listen
that's
to
something
aunties.
that you pick up in the Cook Islands as well, Tahiti,
it's
Fiji.
very much, I think,
The
a
auntie.
Polynesian,
Yeah, so that's a Polynesian extension. Okay. So any other? Okay, so what do you call? Again, some of this will be similar to Australia, if not the same. But flip flops.
Jandals.
Okay, now that is different to Australia. Because, for our listeners, flip-flops, everyone knows what they are. In Australia, they were called thongs. I know, which I think has a different connotation for you as it does for North Americans.
Thongs are G-strings.
Yeah, there you go. But the Kiwis are calling them jandals.
Jandals, yeah. And we say yeah, nah. So, yeah, nah. So it generally means no, but we're going, yeah, we understand, but nah, that's not right. But it's yeah, nah. So if everyone gets a bit thrown by that, because it's kind of the lingo that we use in that sort of space.
Look, it's not slang, but we throw a lot of, particularly me coming from Rotorua, so we're 40% Māori population, we're a bilingual city. I'm throwing a bit of te reo Māori, the indigenous language of New Zealand, around everywhere. And you've heard me say that I've got English parents. And remember when you came up to visit Rotorua and you were like, this is just phenomenal how much Māori is used up here.
Yeah.
And so that's another dimension.
So if you don't speak, again, be it a local or a visitor, again, if you're a visitor, it's very unlikely you speak any Māori. But if you're a local and Māori's being used, is it something that it's being used because most people would know it, or it's just, right, okay. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's taught in schools and
it is
it's part
taught
of
in
our
schools.
culture going forward. Yeah, it's part of our program. And in tourism, we are very much part of our culture to ensure that we're there.
Well, isn't New Zealand, I'll get Lou to pronounce it so I get it. So it's
Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Now, that's the official name of New Zealand now, isn't it? So, again?
So Aotearoa, which means land of the long white cloud.
Oh, that's what it means?
Yeah.
Okay. Which is obviously people have known, or I always knew, again, the country is always referred to as the land of the long white cloud. So that's what that means?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And that's the official name now?
Yes. I don't know if it's
Well,
official,
not
but we
official,
typically would say
I see it
Aotearoa
everywhere.
New Zealand.
And most people
it's-
refer to it that way.
Yeah.
It's the preferred
Well, it's like
naming of. Okay.
Ototahi Christchurch is what Krissy would say in one sentence. So she'd say the Māori name first And that our passports, here you go, here's a fun fact.
Okay.
In our passports, everything is in Māori first and then in English second.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So, again, we won't get into the Maori because that's I'd love to, but that's a different topic altogether. But I think it's key to know that it's not a separate avenue. It is New Zealand. It is, be it Maori, be it white, be it European. It's all one and the same. So are there any other, like in Australia, we call beers schooners and middies? Are they the same expression?
No.
No? Now, again, that might be like, I'm old, haven't been home for a while.
I've got a good one, which
Okay.
is really topical for Rotorua because we're the spa and wellness capital of New
Okay.
Zealand. Did you
And
like
we're
how
actually-
I slid that in?
And Galway's getting into wellness, so there you go.
So in New Zealand, girls, what do we call the swimsuit or the bathers?
Oh, okay.
Togs.
Togs.
Undies, togs.
Yeah, so if you're wearing Speedos, Don,
Yeah.
there is a certain point where Speedos at the beach are okay. So while you're on the beach, you've got your Speedos on, they're togs. But when you walk a certain point towards town,
yeah,
they go
they've
from
got
togs to undies.
The undies, okay.
So, but yeah, if you go to New Zealand, like...
Just everyone listening, undies is underwear. Just,
Oh, sorry.
No, it might be,
Just to
no, but
clarify.
just be.
Hosting so many international visitors,
Yeah, I
I get
know.
myself in a right pickle because I'll be talking and I'll be going, like, they're Americans. Shit, what are they called? Excuse my language. What do we call them? Are they bathers? Is it swimming costume? Is it?
Well,
And I'm
the
like,
thing is-
right, everyone, they're togs.
See, the thing is, people don't really, at least in North America, don't wear Speedos. That's a rarity here.
That's great.
Like, again, growing up, that's what I spent so much time on the beach. But that sort of faded out. I think now Speedos are more for
Olympians.
Olympians, life
Professional
service, that type of thing. It's nearly what we would term board shorts, I guess, would be the same.
Yes, board shorts.
But again, we used to, and togs was an expression, but it's swimmers. I use that, my wife laughs, swimmers. That's a bathing suit. That's swimmers. Togs I haven't heard for a while. Okay.
But Don, I would just like to add in there that often in Australia you will call Speedos budgie smugglers.
Budgie smugglers, yes. I'll put up a photo for those watching to understand what that means. You probably want to look at it very quickly. Another aspect of travel is food. I know from past conversations with many of the Kiwis who've come through the Goway office, the food is exceptional in New Zealand. Again, there's a heavy colonial influence, but what would be some typical food or types of meals that people may not be aware of?
Pies.
Pies?
You've got to have a New Zealand pie.
So we get the good old puff pastry and it's really buttery, made with great New Zealand milk, right? Butter, obviously. And then we put fillings in it, which seem really strange in North America. So we do things like steak and cheese. We might do bacon and egg. We might do a fish pie. We might do, venison pie, chicken brie and cranberry. So anything, any combination you can think of, we like to put it in a pastry and have a pie. Now, I know that in Australia pies are a thing, but they're way better in New Zealand.
I can't
A
argue or
little bit
disagree
more
with that.
gourmet, a
bit
little
more
bit more
gourmet?
pushing the
A bit more
boundary than
refined.
just being, just the mince pie.
No,
steak
the
pie.
Australia's
bougie,
just
yeah.
the
A
meat,
little bit more
the
bougie.
meat pie, which is a good sort of sports. Yeah, you're at a sports game, you have that. I've not had a decent pie since I've been in North America. I've got to tell you, I really miss that aspect of it. Anything else?
I think our coffee is extremely a part of our life. I say that because we're quite coffee snobs in New Zealand, that you do want a good coffee and you can generally find a good coffee wherever you are. Generally, yes, we have got a lot of, especially in Christchurch, we do support local as much as we can, and you'll see in the regions they'll change into who's in what region to support the local, coffee roaster.
Again, this is going to sound like a really noob question. You have Starbucks, that chain
Well,
in New
no,
Christchurch.
Really?
We do.
I don't think in the South Island.
We've got a Starbucks.
We've got a
That's right,
Starbucks.
that's right.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, Starbucks.
So if you're referring to coffee, you're talking more traditional cafe coffee shops
Yes, so we have
versus the
coffee.
chains.
Yeah, absolutely. So family-owned coffee shops that are popped up, and their baristas are generally trained exceptionally well. And I'll segue into that because I know it's not quite food, but our wine is part of what New Zealand is well known for as well. Our wine regions in different areas have got varieties that are just exceptional for the grapes that are grown in that area as well. So I think they're probably two touch points on the overall food part. But does anyone have anything else for food?
Chocolate.
Wellington
Yeah,
chocolate.
well, I was
Again-
going to say, I was going to jump in for Wellington for the coffee culture. We're really known in the capital that, you literally can't turn around. You can't go more than 50 metres and you'll see coffee shop or a cafe, and a lot of our foodie tours will actually take you into those coffee shops, and you can roast your own coffee beans, and they'll teach you the secrets of a good coffee sort of thing. But also chocolate. New Zealand's pretty famous for Whittaker's chocolate.
Again, this is all locally produced?
All locally produced, yeah. Whittaker's factory is in Wellington. We've got the Wellington chocolate factory as well. So, yeah, you're never going to be short of anything sort of sweet and delicious in Wellington.
New Zealand, fun fact, New Zealand, and I think nearly Australia, we do not have Cadbury's as our market leader. In fact, Cadbury's is a bit of a dirty word in New Zealand. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so we're a Whittaker's nation first and foremost.
Whittaker's.
And sometimes
that's
you
a
go
local
Wellington chocolate.
Okay.
Sometimes you go to the
so
supermarket and you know that there's been a tourist bus that's pulled up.
It's all gone?
It's all gone.
It's all gone. Okay, I'd not heard of. I sort of knew that coffee had made a big, because apparently in Australia too, coffee's a big thing now. Again, compared to when I was growing up. But I didn't know chocolate was a thing of New Zealand. Yeah. Wine, yes, for sure. I guess one of the more, traditional would be a hangi.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah. But I'll leave you just talk.
Yeah, so hangi is a traditional way of cooking. It's a little bit, I think they call it a luau in Hawaii, where you cook the food underground, or an umu in other parts of the world. So yeah, that's a big part of Rotorua actually. So we're 40% Māori. A lot of people will come, and one of the things on their New Zealand bucket list is eating hangi. So that's delicious. And actually, a lot of the hangi in Rotorua isn't actually cooked in the ground. It's cooked on top of the ground because we're utilising the geothermal steam to steam it. It's a lot quicker.
Yeah, I found it fascinating because I grew up hearing about hangis in New Zealand, and then when I was travelling, particularly in Latin America, that style of cooking, bearing and the hot stones, was used by the Incas as well. I just find it amazing that sort of technology or a method crossed oceans.
We have something that is our New Zealand New Year called Matariki, which is the weekend that we celebrate the Maori New Year, and that's when you'll see a lot more of our cultural food. I think guests come across it, and the hangis are definitely put down, and the bonfires on the beaches, etc. So it's quite a cool time as well.
Right, nice. So we've spoken about the culture of New Zealand, welcoming, safe, of course, and not all things, but many things you can do. Are there any cultural etiquettes that people should be aware of or should partake in? And the reason I bring that up is I think it was the end of a recent rugby test, the All Blacks, maybe against South Africa, but I saw the players I'm pretty sure it was a rugby thing, at the end of the game, doing touching each other's head and the nose rub, and that's probably, I've expressed that very badly, I know.
It's called the hongi, with the pressing of noses, and it's very typical in Māori culture. It's a way to greet instead of shaking hands, and what they're doing when they press the noses together is they are exchanging the breath of life. So once you do that, you are connected.
And what was that called again?
The hongi, so Hongi, hongi.
Hongi, and hangi is Hangi.
That's correct.
So it's just one.
Do not get those mixed up.
No, don't get them mixed up. No, not at all. No, and I knew it happened, but I just saw it, I think, in public, so to speak, I'm pretty sure it was a sporting event. I thought, okay, that's becoming, or to me as an outsider, it's becoming more accepted or a way.
It's still very much a cultural thing. You wouldn't walk down the street and probably hongi someone randomly.
That's how you express it? You wouldn't hongi someone?
Probably not. I've probably said that wrong, but
yeah.
Like a reverence and high regard of just that transaction of, the transaction, but just the personal nature of connection.
Right, so that would be something so back to cultural etiquette, a tourist wouldn't be expected to do it or to do it, but it's much more of a close personal connection or an event.
In the Māori community.
We have a walking culture food tour in Christchurch where Reid asks if anyone would like to hongi so they can experience it. You don't have to, you can opt out, but it gives you that. If you do want to experience a hongi, then that's the opportunity to be able to understand why and what that looks like as well. So you'd never get directly given one, you'd always be asked.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay.
Don't ever sit on a table in New Zealand because tables are for eating, and in Māori culture in particular, I just would never sit on a table. That's
Put your shoes on the table.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Don't wear a hat on at dinner. I'm not sure if that's across the world, but
yeah, that's again, I grew up with
should be like that anyway.
Yeah, that was sort of, to me, my grandmother was very Victorian. Yes. There was a very no elbows, no hats, smack. Back in the day when that happened.
Yeah.
Now you ladies introduce yourselves with kia ora.
Yeah.
Now that's a common expression, and it means
It actually means good health. So when someone says kia ora, it also means hello, it means goodbye. So it's a really handy couple of words to know.
So again, a traveller saying kia ora would be cool. Fine, no
yeah,
problem.
would love it.
Any other little tips, I guess, on cultural etiquette? Be it something that you wouldn't do but it's interesting, or that would be a good tip?
Probably smile a lot.
Smile a lot, yeah. Well, you're in New Zealand, how could you not? No, okay. It doesn't have to be a long list of things, no?
Yeah.
Okay, so just simple things, shaking hands, kia ora.
I think when you do it every day, you kind of forget what the
Yeah, of
interesting
course.
parts are. Apologise. But I think if you do come across, ask us, because we're more than happy to share why or what that was. And especially if you don't understand, let us know, because we, as I say, we are there to have conversations.
Yeah, okay. So again, we've covered a lot of ground here. So if a travel agent out there is speaking to a client about travelling to New Zealand, outside of the cultural stuff, which is something we've discussed, what tips or pointers should they be presenting to their clients about New Zealand? Like, what's a good way of selling it? I guess I hate using that term, but that's what we're trying to do here, trying to sell destinations. So if an agent wants to sell New Zealand quickly, that's sort of what they call it.
Diversity in one word.
What's the word? Elevator pitch.
Yeah, diversity.
Yeah,
From
diversity?
the top of the north to the bottom of the south, and the contrast of everything in between
Is that
completely
people,
different.
culture?
Everything. Landscape, geography,
I think something I would also throw in there, that a lot can be done in a very small area, i.e. you could do a lot in a short period of time, get around easily. Like getting around New Zealand, I know is easy by road, by air, by boat, crossing from north to south, south to north, or even circumnavigating the islands, plural.
I probably would say, as a flip side to that, is we talk about balance in New Zealand a lot. Like Lou mentioned about the lifestyle, and we do have that we do enjoy our life and how we live. Slow down. We're not in a rush. So slow down and enjoy while you're there. If you're coming through, don't come through fast. Come through and really get to know what we're about and where we are within New Zealand. We've got a lot of different things, as Linda said, to offer, different for diversity throughout the whole of New Zealand. So one tip I'd give is slow down.
Take your time.
And I think going back to, you were talking a lot about self-drive, the self-drive market. Now, New Zealand, whilst we're a small country, people may look at driving distances and go, oh, that's nothing. It's only 3 hours from A to B, for example. Oh, we do that easily. That's what we do in the morning to get to work. Our landscapes are so completely different, and we have very, very windy roads. We don't have big, long, straight highways like that's overseas. So you've really got to be cautious of that. It's windy, it's narrow, it's forever changing our roads. They're safe. I'm not saying it's not safe, but it's just very different. And so a 3-hour travel on a long straight state highway is very different to what you'll experience on New Zealand roads for that.
And following on from that too, Di, a good tip for your travel agents is when whatever port they come into in New Zealand, whether that be Auckland, Wellington or Christchurch, stay there for the night. Orientate yourself. Don't get in a car and drive, because we're on the different side of the road.
Yeah.
It takes some time for you to get over your jet lag. Stay the night, get orientated, then get your rental car keys, and then you can take your time.
Yeah, and I think that's good advice for any country in the world, whether you're doing a self-drive or not. On arrival, just take a day and a bit. It might seem a lot within an itinerary, but particularly the other side of the world, get over the jet lag, get acclimatised, just feel comfortable before you go off exploring, be it on an organised tour or on a self-drive.
There's a couple of other things we must mention to get your clients prepared. We love layers in New Zealand. Bring lots of little merino layers, lots of layers that you can take on and off, because Crowded House, which is a very well-known New Zealand band, they sang a song called 4 Seasons in One Day. And no matter where you are in New Zealand, you're likely to experience all of those. So you need a raincoat on your person, not far away, and then you need to be able to strip down to a T-shirt. So,
and that's really any time of the year.
Absolutely.
Okay, there you go.
And sunblock all time of year as well.
Sun is harsh.
I think sunblock anywhere in the world these days, but yes, okay. Anything else, Lou, or anyone else, ladies, that you want to bring up for our travel professional partners?
I know a lot of North Americans will turn up with a big wad of cash. A lot of places are going cashless. So we've got a number of tourism experiences in Rotorua that will not experience cash, but of course they're going to be booking them through their travel agent, those experiences, aren't they, through Goway. I would absolutely be prepared, particularly with a Visa Wise card, for example. I don't know if we're allowed to give a plug for that, but I use my Wise card in New Zealand. I use it internationally. So it's run by Visa. It's called Wise. I've got a referral code if anyone wants one. And basically you can just load up your currency onto there through an app on your phone, and you're going to get pinged a lot less banking transaction fees.
Really?
So every time I travel, if I'm paying with my my tap and go card,
right,
and so a lot less bank fees. But yeah, generally in New Zealand, everywhere will just be tap to pay.
Yeah, that's pretty much. That's
But
pretty much.
you end
everywhere
up with a lot of
I'm
bank
going these
fees.
days,
But my point would be, don't bring a huge amount of cash with you, because I don't think you're going to need it. In
Right,
some
so
places you can't use it.
If someone's, so that's just a fault. That if someone brings cash, US dollars wouldn't be accepted.
No.
No, you'd have to exchange it, which would be easy to do. But
You can
Kiwi
do
dollars.
exchanges at the airports, but I actually found really hard in the city to exchange cash. So just as
the
a word
banks
of
don't even barely
Really?
do it anymore.
So
There's
if-
a lot
if-
less
sorry, Dom.
places. Sorry, yeah, I was just saying there's a lot less places than there used to be to exchange foreign currency.
Right, so even if you're up in the morning early, you want to pop into the local coffee shop, the tap and goes for people.
and go.
Absolutely.
You don't
It
need
might not-
small $5, $10 to get
I
you.
never have cash now, just being in country, everything's on my phone or on my card. I barely even carry my card sometimes. It's all just through my phone. So it's perfectly acceptable. Yep. Unexpected.
Okay, anything else, ladies, about...
Just keep it simple with the coffee. Don't be going in and ordering a skinny, tall, long black matcha latte, because you'll get looked at sideways. Get in
okay.
there, and
Yeah.
actually this comes from Australia. You can have that because we've got crowded house. Go for a flat white or a latte, and you'll want another one straight away. And actually on that, having travelled in North America a bit, all of our coffees are standard double shot. So if you want a single shot coffee, you'll have to ask for it.
Oh, okay.
Because absolutely it's ingrained in us.
So you're,
Go hard or go
you're
home.
running,
Go
you're
double.
running around high on caffeine, are you?
totally.
We're used to it.
Well, I think you girls need it now after your flight's in. Okay, just a few other little points too. We talked about food. We didn't touch on this particular delicacy, pavlova. Can one of you girls describe pavlova?
Like a meringue.
Okay,
Yeah. A very large meringue.
It's
Meringue.
light, fluffy.
Yeah, it's egg whites
Cream.
beaten to a with the hell beaten out of them, with a ton of sugar whipped in and then baked slow and long. You do not open the oven. Your mother will tell you off. And then it's got this hard outer
Exactly.
casing, and inside it's almost a little bit marshmallowy. And of
Top
course,
with cream.
you want to top it with fresh New Zealand cream and kiwi
Strawberries.
fruit and
Kiwi fruit.
strawberries,
Strawberries.
and maybe a little bit
Maybe
of
with
grated
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 chocolate.
Yeah,
chocolate
I
on
was
the
gonna say
top.
some
Whittaker's
chocolate on
chocolate.
Yeah.
Whittaker's chocolate, not
We
for
need to find some now.
Yeah, I know.
Because there has been a long argument over who
It
owns
has.
pavlova, and look at straight away the girls are in. It's New Zealand. It's been a fight between Australia and New Zealand.
My uncle's backing us into a corner with this one.
I think if the two countries ever went to war, it'd be over pavlova.
Totally.
A few other things that are not Australian. Russell Crowe, Crowded House.
Yeah, we'll take
born in New Zealand.
Who, sorry?
Both. Keith Urban was born.
Keith
in,
Urban
yeah,
is a Kiwi.
born in Whangarei.
I can't remember his name, but if people watch the series here called The Boys, it's a comic thing. The lead actor there, he's a Kiwi.
Taika Waititi?
Keith.
Oh,
You said Keith Urban.
Keith Urban is the country music
Country.
star.
There's another guy
Yeah.
called Keith or whatever. Anyway, if you
Yeah.
watch The Boys, he's quite a well-known actor now. He's another Kiwi as well. Not Australian. Who else?
Taika Waititi.
Sorry.
Taika Waititi.
Well, he's definitely a Kiwi.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's pretty.
There's no
That's a
fighting
given.
over
That
it.
one.
Kiwi?
He's very Kiwi. But there's a few other. I can't remember now. I had a list, but I didn't bring it with me
Aussies.
of Aussies who've claimed Kiwis. But
Claim them all.
Sam
But
Neill,
again-
he's one of ours.
sorry.
Sam Neill often gets
Sam
called
Neill,
Australian.
yep, he often
Absolutely
gets called
not.
Aussie. He's a Kiwi as well. So I guess what I'm pointing out there is the culture of New Zealand is in your face. You might not even know it because Australians claim it. But the culture runs deep, be it colonial, be it European, be it Maori. In New Zealand, the opportunities to do things abound. Again, we've just really touched on all the things you can do in 4 of the regions. There are many, many other regions in New Zealand. Again, small country with lots to do, easy to get around to see and do it. The local Kiwis will look after you. They'll support you. They'll help you out. There is, as we've discovered, they're as interested in you as you are probably in them and their culture. So it's a perfect meeting of cultures should you find yourself down in New Zealand. If you do have any questions about New Zealand, please speak to one of our destination specialists here at Goway. The way it works here is Goway, if you don't know, is our company's broken down into regions. So anyone who's selling New Zealand or Australia or the South Pacific for that matter, because a lot of options combined as well, that's all they sell. That's all they do. Many of them are Kiwi and or Australian. And if not, they've been trained extensively on those areas, so they know what they're talking about. And we have the backup and support of the ladies here. New Zealand Tourism itself have been partners with Goway for many, many years. And Goway is the largest mover of people from North America to the South Pacific. That is a fact, not just a boast. Well, it's a bit of both actually, but it's a fact. So if you do have any questions about getting to New Zealand, you can come to Goway, of course. The girls in their respective representations, you can also reach out directly to them. We have no problems with that as well. They're more than happy to work with travel partners on information, sending any collateral, be it photos, videos, etc. And we work in partnership with them on webinars, specifically on Rotorua, Christchurch, or Wellington. So if you need anything like that, please reach out to Goway. We'll put you in touch with Lou, Linda, Krissy, and or Di, and they'll be more than happy to assist you. So on that note, I'd like to thank everyone for their time. Thank you for visiting us today on what is a whirlwind trip. And we've just discovered the girls now need to go and train our staff here. So they're going to head upstairs to do that. So again, thank you, Lou, Linda, Krissy, and Di, for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you everyone out there for listening in, and we will talk to you soon.
Sweet.
Done.